I had a dream, and the Lord came to me in a dream, and I just saw this cage, and I was inside the cage full of snakes. And there were snakes everywhere, hanging from the roof, on the side of the cage, on the floor. And I was in that cage with him, and I couldn't get out, and the snakes were coming for me, you know. It wasn't a nice feeling. And then I noticed that there was another person in this cage with me, and somebody who was very calm, and it was the Lord. And he came to me, he said, "Do you want me to get rid of these snakes?" And I said, "Yeah, please, of course, you know." He said to me, "Oh, well, I'm a snake hunter." And then he killed all these snakes for me, man.
Tell us a bit about you and what your life was like before Jesus.
Okay, my name's Craig, I'm 61. I was born in Swaziland. Then my family immigrated to South Africa, and most of my life I grew up in South Africa. And then later on in life I immigrated to Australia, and then from Australia I went to do some big construction projects in Dubai, and then in Oman. Now I'm living in Brazil, running my own residential development company. I also have a church here in Brazil. I'm a pastor, and I have a wonderful wife and a very pretty daughter. I grew up, as I say, I grew up mostly in South Africa, and I grew up in a very good area. My father had a Mercedes-Benz. He had a construction company. We had a reasonably good life. My dad he provided for me. I managed to get a bursary to study engineering. My mother was very loving. But I remember as a child I struggled a little bit with feeling loved and receiving love from my father. Even though he loved me, I don't remember him actually hugging me and making me feel special or worthy. And I'm not saying it was his fault, but something in me made me feel that I had to try and make up for that being lacking. And so what I did as a child, I had asthma as well. I was shy, and I remember struggling to breathe. Sometimes the whole night I couldn't breathe. My mother would put a towel over my head to make me breathe in these fumes from this bowl of hot water with medicine in it, and I really struggled there. And in many sports events, or when the other kids were playing soccer, I was put one side. And my mother used to phone the other mother and make sure that Craig was put one side, and I just felt, you know, different, and I felt that I wasn't kicking goals like the other kids, you know. And I built up kind of like in my heart a determination to try and, how am I going to overcome this, you know, and how am I going to be like the other kids, be stronger. And so I just determined in my heart to work hard, to study as much as I could, and to get ahead. And what went with that is I managed, as I said, I managed to get this bursary with a very good construction company in South Africa that paid for my studies, and I set a course for myself to do the best projects, to work my hardest that I could. And, you know, I did well. I won awards. I was running projects at a young age. And all was going good. I bought a house with the money that I was earning. I had a nice car. I had girls that were interested in me, you know. And it was a bit like the pleasures of this world. I decided to pursue those things. And the exciting things in this world, you know. I remember parachuting, shark diving, snorkeling, and scuba diving, not just scuba diving, but deep diving in mines, anything that was interesting and exciting, you know. I was in an acrobatic plane once as a passenger, but it was to really push the limits and be something, if you like. But amongst all of that, I felt somehow there was something missing in me. I couldn't quite get that feeling of fulfillment and who I really was. You know, you'd be inspired by others, or you'd look in magazines, and I traveled a lot. I went to many countries. You know, it's inspiring and it's fun, but it wasn't satisfaction. And together with the hard work that I did, the focus, not looking after myself, I started getting sick. I found that I had Crohn's disease. Some of the doctors said I had cancer. I'd immigrated to Australia on my own. The doctor said to me, Craig, have you got insurance, medical insurance? I said, no, I haven't. So he said, well, get it and I'll cut your colon out, you know. And I thought, well, that's interesting, but it's going to be hard surfing with a stomach bag, you know. Maybe I shouldn't get it cut out. And so this was a huge challenge for me. I was excreting blood and mucus, and I was in a bad shape. I'd broken up with my girlfriend. As I said, I'd immigrated to Australia. I'd just started my own business as well, which put a lot of pressure on me. My father had died. My inheritance I'd worked my way through slowly. I had these big projects that I thought I was going to get, and I didn't get them. And so here I'm sitting with, having spent my inheritance. I'm sitting in Australia alone. I didn't have that many friends. A lot of my friends were married already. And I thought, gee, you know, something's got to change. And, you know, I remembered my sister being a Christian. She told me a lot of things. But up to that stage of my life, when I was 33, I was kicking too many goals. I thought I was anyway. And I was overcoming my deficiencies, if you like. But I wasn't really. My soul wasn't satisfied. My spirit wasn't in tune. And so I thought, well, I've got to do something. And so when my mom died, I went back to South Africa to her funeral. And I was in South Africa then. I thought, you know what, I'm out of Aussie, I'm quiet now. I'm going to decide to give myself to the Lord.
So what was the turning point in your life, and how exactly did you meet Jesus?
Yeah, I think there wasn't one specific light that came on. It was more like I just felt the load, you know. I couldn't deal with the prospect of having colon cancer. I didn't know how to rebuild myself for the inheritance that I'd lost. I had ideas, you know, always had ideas though. What's new, you know, sort of thing. And I also knew that in my relationships with women that somehow they weren't working. You know, I think the focus often was myself and not really the relationship and not really the other person. I was so self-consumed, if you like, with trying to be whole, if you like, that the other person was often used to contribute, if you like, to me, rather than me contributing to their wholeness, you know. And so I realized there was something wrong there as well. And so it was a progressive things that had happened, but they all seemed to happen, yes, within the same sort of period, maybe over a period of about 6 months, you know. And then having gone back to South Africa with, you know, being in a quiet place, being back in my mother's home, being with my family, and being with my sister. My sister was a Christian, and I had other Christian friends there. To the place where I decided, you know, why not just try and receive what these guys are talking about, you know. Maybe it's not so bad, and maybe I can learn something, maybe I can get fired up, but something has to change. And so yes, I got to that place where I thought something has to change. And so it wasn't really one light that went on and suddenly I felt I had to change. It was a progression of things that went wrong. You know, it was the colon cancer, it was losing my inheritance, not only breaking up with my girlfriend, but realizing that my relationships weren't working with women. It was a certain reliance on alcohol. I never really drank a lot, but I did abuse it at times, you know. But I just realized that something had to change, and that happened over a period of, I don't know, 6 months. And then after my mom died, she was, you know, very special to me. I used to often just sit with her at the dining room table, have a cup of tea, and I realized that I had nothing left. So why not try and gain something, you know? And, you know, I remember that use of gaining the whole world, but losing your soul. Jesus said that, you know. I knew that, and I had some Christian friends, and I thought, gee, man, I've got to get something back here. And, you know, I'm an engineer, I plan things, and I decided, well, I'm just going to give my life to the Lord. I wasn't going to any church in South Africa. I didn't need to go to a church I didn't feel. The most important thing was I needed to change and connect with the Lord. And I knew I could do that on my own. And I just want to say that now, is that anybody watching this program can do the same. And so I planned it, and so one evening I knew it was going to be a quiet evening. I just organized my bed nicely and did the best I can to communicate with the Lord, who I felt could help me, because I'd spoken to other people, I'd spoken to psychologists, I had self-help books. Believe me, I know about all those things. I'm MBA guy. There's so many books out there how to help you, how to change your life. But here I was, just pouring out my heart, and I felt something happen. I'm sitting on my bed all alone, quiet, and something happened, and I went to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, I just felt like I was on cloud nine. Something had changed. I couldn't explain it properly. And one of the first things that I realized that had happened was that I always used to wake up with a slight sense of depression. And I thought that was normal, just like you clean the sleep out of your eyes, and it's just part of getting up, I've been sleeping, and so it's normal, but it wasn't normal. And I found in that morning I had no depression at all. I'd had that for years and years and years, and that went. I thought, wow, something's different now, And then as I got out of bed and as I started meeting people again and stuff like that, I started realizing that I had this love for little kids. A little kid would run past, and I just thought, wow, what a beautiful little child. Before, I'd see them and they're interesting and cute, but here I had this love. And so I started walking differently and feeling differently, and I felt that my anxiety as well had lifted. Besides the depression in the mornings, I also wasn't anxious anymore. I had this light, but even though it was light, it was continual, a sense of anxiety. If you in a crowd of people, if you're in a party, anywhere, or even at work, you got this sense of anxiety. It's almost like a sense, I've got to do something, or I'm in danger, or I'm in fear, but I'm always ready to, I'm not at peace. And I felt that peace finally was with me.
Craig, how did Jesus transform your life?
I think the first thing he did was, he poured his love into my heart. And I know it's hard to explain, but that love that I found was lacking from my father. Even though it was there, I know he loved me, but I didn't feel it somehow. And somehow I wasn't connecting. That was the first thing, was I felt my heart full of love, right? And because of that, I was then able to love others. Whether it's small kids or it's just my friends or women, The depression in the mornings lifted. And I also got healed. I had asthma. That was healed. My colon cancer, I was told I had colon cancer, that disappeared. And then later on in life, I had arthritis in my toe, that got healed as well. And then all the money that I'd lost through my inheritance, I managed to get back. In fact, I'm in a good position now. I'm actually a property developer, And so what the Lord did to me was he restored my heart, my soul, if you like. He gave me a hope and a future. I think that if I'd carried on like I was going, I probably wouldn't be alive now, So basically he gave me life. He restored he provided for me and restored my health and my happiness, and also the decisions that I made in life after that were different to what I would normally do. My decisions were based on the world, on man's wisdom, and now my decisions are based on God's wisdom. The woman that I married, beautiful woman, I probably wouldn't have married if I was in that place. And my daughter's a beautiful daughter, and the way that I brought her up, I think would have been different if I didn't come to the Lord. So he's basically done everything for me. And sitting here, I'm just very happy to have moved a little bit towards the Lord, for him to come into my life and basically transform me.
Do you feel that the Lord communicates with you? How does the Lord communicate with you?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I never had an expectation that you can have a personal relationship with the Lord. I had these ideas about religion, going into a big building, praying, feeling good. But the Lord does communicate, and through His Word. So, I'm a pastor now, I've got, deep into His Word, and the Lord speaks to you through His Word. I've had a lot of prophecies over my life, and I've written them down, and, so many of them have come true so far. So it's through a prophetic word, it's through people in the church praying for me, having words of knowledge for me, and it's also a still small voice, the Lord speaking to me in a certain situation. So yeah, I've had a lot of communication with the Lord, and some of them have been quite wild. I remember I was doing a project in China. I exported a factory structure from from South Africa. It was made in South Africa out of aluminium. It was designed in Australia, and it was erected in China. It was 5 stories high. It's quite a big factory, and I made a movie of it. But I went through quite a hard time with that project for a whole lot of reasons. And I asked the Lord to communicate. I said, Lord, I'm on my own here, man. We had a Chinese construction company which I was working with. I'd subcontracted the work to. And I gave them instructions. They weren't always listening to me. I had an interpreter who helped me with the Chinese. He was from Macau, nice guy. But yeah, we had problems there. We had safety issues and all sorts. And I was stressed out. The project was running late, and I said, Lord, give me a sign. And the translator for me from Macau came to me one night. We were at a certain place, we used to have a shower. It was actually outside, and he said to me, Craig, there's a sign from God in the shower. I said, what? And he wasn't a believer, and he was an atheist. And I said, okay, let me go look at this thing. And I went to have a look in the shower. There's a huge white moth. I've never seen a moth so big in my life. It was about, I don't know, that big. And here he was telling me there's a sign from God. I just felt, wow, the Lord's with me, It encouraged me so much to actually finish that project and kind of like have the strength to know that the Lord was looking after me, right? That was one of the times. I've had other times. I had, at one time, I got stressed out. What I find is when you come to the Lord deals with your most important issues first. My most important issue was just to give me life, and to save me from this cancer, save me from myself, really. But part of what still needed to be worked out, and the Bible talks about renewing your mind, and I hadn't really renewed my mind about the way that I tackled work. I just piled in. I was stressed out. I was working too hard day and night. I was working weekends, and I just felt I needed a break. I had to get out, and I decided to just drive. And I got in my car with my wife, and we just drove to Byron Bay in Australia, which is a pretty cool place. We hadn't planned to stop at Byron Bay, but I just stopped there. I said, we're just going to stop here. We tried to get a hotel, and I went into the hotel and fell asleep. I was just so tired. I didn't go to the beach or anything like that. And I had a dream. And the Lord came to me in a dream, and I just saw this cage, and I was inside the cage full of snakes. And there were snakes everywhere, hanging from the roof, on the side of the cage, on the floor. And I was in that cage with them, and I couldn't get out, and the snakes were coming for me. It wasn't a nice feeling. And then I noticed that there was another person in this cage with me, and somebody who was very calm, and it was the Lord. And he came to me, he said, do you want me to get rid of these snakes? And I said, yeah, please, of course, He said to me, oh, well, I'm a snake hunter, right? Please. And then he killed all these snakes for me, man. And it was his way of speaking to me. And he said, listen, sleep for 3 days. And so I said, okay, cool. So I woke up in the morning, and my wife was saying, let's go to the beach. I said, no, I'm not going to go to the beach. Byron Bay's paradise on the beach, beautiful place. I said, no, let's go sleep for 3 days and take it easy. And so I did. I slept for 3 days, and on the third day, we heard about a church that was across the road. They're a pretty cool church. They were their ministry was with a lot of the hippies and New Age people there in Byron Bay. And they're lovely people here. And we went across the road and we went to the church, and I was just sitting in the church there just chilling. And the pastor's wife came and she made an announcement. She said, the guys in the church, I just feel the Lord wants to pray for you, you know. And I said, fine. And I stood up, and I don't know, there's about 8 of us. We stood up, and she came to each one of us. She laid her hands on us and prayed for us. I didn't expect a lot, but I was there for prayer. And as she prayed for me, I just felt this enormous power. It was a fierce storm of a combination of water. It was like being in a very strong rain, a combination of water and fire at the same time. Hard to explain. It doesn't make sense, fire and rain, but all at once, and noisy but not a noise. It was just incredible. It like consumed me, this fire, right? She didn't know what was going on, and I spoke to her about it later. And I found this verse later on in Matthew 3:11, where it says the Lord is going to baptize you. You know, John the Baptist said, "I'd baptize you in water," but the Lord was here to baptize you with fire and water. And it was obviously I was being baptized, and it was burning stuff off me and providing further life. And in fact, we're supposed to be baptized in the Spirit on an ongoing basis to keep full of the Holy Spirit. So that was an amazing experience. So there, the Lord was not only communicating with me, but further fixing me. You know, and I've had quite a few experiences like that. And you know, I just want to encourage people as well, is that when you give your life to the Lord, I've heard people say as well, Christians say as well, is that you're giving your life up, and there's a very high cost. But to me, it wasn't that high a cost because I had nothing to offer. My life wasn't at the time of that much value. But to now have the value that I have through the Lord, it's enormous. I can't compare it. And so the point I want to make is that you're actually not giving up a lot. The Bible talks about you being crucified with Christ and being alive in Him. And life in Christ is it's not boring. It's not a set of rules. And it's not putting me under a burden. In fact, the burden lifts off you. The Bible talks about His yoke being light and His way being easy. I was under a heavy yoke, and now this yoke had lifted. And I want to encourage people to be set free. And that is what the Lord wants to do. He wants to lift you up. He wants to set you free. And that's what happened to me.
So what would you tell those who are watching you right now, who want to be saved?
I think I want to say the first thing is, you know, the Bible talks about redeeming the time. He's talking about time management and in business and things like that. And, you know, don't waste time. I was 33 when I came to the Lord, and I'd gone down a lot of rabbit holes. I'd gone down into spaces that I wouldn't want people to go, you know. In fact, last night I prayed for a guy who's 19. He came to the Lord. He's 19. And he had a lot of the issues that I had, but a lot that I didn't have because he didn't have time to have them, you know. And so come to the Lord as you are. So the first thing is don't wait. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to fast. You don't have to get your life in order. Is go as you are. If you look through the scriptures, the people that went to the Lord, they had a hunger for Him, and they went to Him, and He never turned anybody away. He's not going to turn you away now. The Lord speaks about knocking on the door, and all you got to do, and He's knocking on your door now. I know some people are watching this. He's knocking on your hearts right now. And I just want to encourage you, just open your heart and receive Him, and He'll come in and have intimacy with you. And through His intimacy with you, you're going to change. You don't change first, you change afterwards. And He's cool with that, you know. And that's just the way it is. It's just that religion has put it the other way. So that's the first thing, is don't waste time. Do it now. And the second thing is don't wait to prepare yourself. No one is prepared for receiving the love and the power from the Lord. You're never ready. And in fact, I'm growing enormously every day, you know, because His wonder is limitless, and it's up to you to jump in the river. I encourage people, just jump in the river, man. He's the river of life. Don't put your toe in. That's the other thing I want to say. Even if you then join a church, our salvation and our working out our salvation, the Bible says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. In the New Testament, we don't have fear, we have awe for the Lord. You know, He's awesome. And don't wait for His awesomeness to be necessarily taught from somebody else. Go and get it, grab His hem. Get healed, get delivered. And it's not just for you. I just want to encourage you, again, this is an important principle. It's not just for you, it's for your family. And it's for your kids, and it's for the generations after you. So, if you're young, you know nothing, grab the hem, receive the Lord. If you're older, you've been through a lot, receive the Lord will restore a lot of what you've lost. What the locusts have eaten, the money that you've lost like me, your health that you've lost, the happiness, the joy that you've lost. Let the Lord restore that. The Bible talks about the enemy coming to kill, steal, and destroy. But the Lord comes to give you life, and life in abundance. Not just life, life in abundance. Abundant life. I want that for you. Amen. And He wants that for you.